local flavor and eclectic cuisine meet, and where culture and community connect. Ideas are created and reimagined. We are rising, bigger and bolder. We invite you to discover your urban in downtown Orlando.
Visibility while driving at night can be challenging for drivers, and their failure to see pedestrians is often fatal. In Florida, 75% of pedestrian fatalities occur at night. Many drivers say they never saw the pedestrian. What will it take
Hello,
to see
Broadcast
him?
2, can you hear me?
Can you see him now? Drivers, look for pedestrians, especially at night. Pedestrians, make sure you are visible. Alert tonight, alive tomorrow. Because safety doesn't happen by accident.
And just a little exhaust.
Good afternoon. It's June 15th, and we have an agenda review meeting and a city council meeting beginning at 2 o'clock. So why don't we begin today with our agenda review meeting? Madam Clerk, I believe we do have some appearance request.
Yes, Mayor, I have 7 appearance requests for agenda review. The first one was from Seth Mendelsohn, and he submitted written comments, which were distributed to the council earlier today. The first up for live comment is Ryan Solo. Mr. Solo, you have 5 minutes to speak. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. My name is Ryan Solo. I'm at 401 North Michigan Avenue, Suite 1200, Chicago, Illinois. And I'm part of Silver Hills. So first off, I'd like to thank the City Council for giving me the opportunity to publicly speak today. As I said earlier, my name is Ryan Solo, and I'm part of the ownership group of the property that's located at 7885 Lakehurst Drive, which is the neighboring property to the Bainbridge Apartments project as part of the municipal planning that was approved in the Municipal Planning Board minutes on May 27th. The reason I'm speaking to you today is to raise some concerns about this project. To be clear, we're generally supportive, but we had some site planning concerns that we think should be addressed by the MPB before this project moves forward. So we've provided to you under separate cover a letter that details our concerns and provides kind of a different site layout for this site that we think would be acceptable. Generally, we are supportive of development in this area, and we don't see any issues with the idea that the development would proceed. So before I begin, though, about stating the issues that we had, I would like to apologize for the timing of this. We would have raised our project concerns with the planning board prior to city council. However, we didn't receive notice of either municipal planning board meeting that had occurred on May 27th and only found out about the project after it was approved. Additionally, nobody at Bainbridge reached out to us before this meeting. So our first concern with the project that we had was with respect to the drainage changes in the area. And if you take a look at the site plan that we had sent everybody in our letter, the development plan contemplates building surface parking lots over what's an existing lake. And just to give you some context, the lake that was dedicated there was dedicated in the early 1970s as a visual amenity, stormwater detention, and for floodplain retention. And the proposed plan drastically reshapes the lake, which is known as Lake Pat, by filling the northern 2 acres of it and blocking drainage easements that flow into Lake Pat from the north by covering them up with surface parking. Additionally, the proposed plan also contemplates that the developer is going to fill nearly 600 feet of land in this site that's presently in the floodplain, which is also on our eastern property line, without any mention as to how the developer is going to address things like compensating storage issues and floodplain issues in accordance with South Florida Water Management District regulations. Additionally, proposed project creates some potential flooding hazards on Universal by moving the lake further south and then expanding it to the west. So essentially, what winds up happening is that the lake will now be right on Universal Boulevard. So we're a little concerned that there might be some flooding over there. And our thoughts on this isn't that there isn't a potential solution to these issues. It's more along the lines that we would like everybody to kind of take a step back and look at this in a little bit more detail. The second major concern that we had with the project is the location of the dumpster for the project. Generally, the dumpster is located along Carrier, and it's right adjacent to our property line. And we're particularly concerned about this location because it is adjacent to our units on our project. We were hoping that that the city council would, that the planning staff and the planning board would take a look at that location and potentially move it. Additionally, the location of the dumpster, and the trash compactor is also adjacent, is also within the drainage easement areas. So we were concerned about that. So essentially what we're looking for from everybody on this is to discuss this project in a little bit more detail rather than approving it through the consent agenda process. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
Mayor, you mute. Do you want me to call on the next speaker?
Yes, Madam Clerk. I think we have a couple more on the same subject, right?
Yes. Next up is Rebecca Wilson. Ms. Wilson, you have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Can you all hear me?
We can now.
This is Rebecca Wilson on behalf of Bainbridge, the developer of the project that was previously mentioned. It is correct by Mr. Solo that the next door neighbor did not appear at the Municipal Planning Board and did not raise these issues. We have reviewed these issues. We've reviewed them with your staff, and we continue to be in compliance with all of the city codes, and we will have to go and get South Florida Water Management District permits. I just wanted to quickly address some of the concerns. Lake Pat, it is a stormwater pond. We will not be decreasing its volume. We are simply reconfiguring, and would note that this project was previously approved about 10 years ago, and the same lake was reconfigured. Mr. Solo, they also own apartments that are adjacent to us, so the uses side by side will be compatible. We will certainly continue to work with staff to make sure that the building which contains the trash is properly screened from our neighbors as is required in the staff report. And if you all have any other questions about this item, I'll just make myself available to answer those.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Wilson. Madam Clerk.
Next up is Craig Usler. Mr. Usler, you have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, it's Craig Usler, 800 North Orange Avenue, Orlando, Florida, 32801. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Mayor and Commissioners, we were made aware a few weeks ago. I believe it's on the consent agenda as part of the CRA portion, and a little bit confusing on how to comment on that on the online forum. So that's, I think, how we got dumped in general appearance. But the point was with regard to the Downtown Ambassador Program. We've had some specific experience with it at Creative Village, and have worked with the city regarding that program and rolling it out and everything. And we had sent a letter last week expressing our support for the program, and just wanted to reiterate that today. We found the program to be useful, especially in the Creative Village context. We have, as you know, thousands and thousands of students at UCF and Valencia downtown, and we have many students that are new to downtown and are unfamiliar with what's going on. So we found there to be value in the program, and it's something we'd like to see to continue. So we just wanted to express our support for that.
Okay, thanks, Craig. Madam Clerk.
Next up is Doug Taylor. Mr. Taylor, you have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Doug Taylor, address 7537 St. Stephen's Court, Orlando, Florida, 32835. Thank you, Mayor Dyer and City Commissioners. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Doug Taylor. I'm a downtown business owner since 1992, and I'm blessed to own a total of 12 restaurants, nighttime venues, and properties, all located within our beautiful downtown. I strongly support the Downtown Ambassador Program and its positive impact on workers, visitors to our downtown, businesses themselves, property, and public rights of way. Every year, our beautiful downtown welcomes millions of guests to its destinations, be that an Orlando Magic game, an Orlando City soccer match, a Camping World Stadium football game, a concert or graduation at the Amway Center, or a play or an opera at the Downtown Performing Arts Center. Additionally, a citizen or a visitor to the region might come downtown to dine and be entertained at any of our more than 110 restaurants and nighttime venues, or to stroll around Lake Eola and its iconic fountain, or in December to see the resplendent beauty of its holiday decor. In all of these instances, for all of these millions of people, most of whom do not know our downtown like those of us in this room, this virtual room, the Downtown Ambassadors are a welcoming sight. Directions on how to reach their venue, where to park, where to valet, is downtown safe, are all citizen-driven interactions that our Downtown Ambassadors answer every single day of every single week, 52 weeks a year. The Downtown Ambassadors are literally the welcoming, knowledgeable, friendly, smiling faces that all of us want to represent our downtown experience. On top of welcoming these millions of people with a smile and their local knowledge, our Downtown Ambassadors are often our downtown's frontline responding team when they encounter or are called about a situation involving a fellow citizen experiencing homelessness. Currently, I have the privilege of serving our region as treasurer of the Homeless Services Network. And from that vantage point, in addition to my street level experience as a business owner, where I routinely encounter fellow citizens experiencing homelessness, I do have some sense of how wide and deep and pervasive the need is to aid our citizens and veterans and single moms and individual men who are experiencing homelessness. This expansion of our Downtown Ambassador Program, with its focus on strengthening the engagement and referring of citizens experiencing homelessness to needed service providers by hiring additional ambassadors with professional qualifications sufficient to assess any citizens experiencing homelessness, is not only a tremendous good to aid the least among us when they most need our aid, but it is also a tremendous good to the downtown property owners, business owners, office workers, or the aforementioned visitors, most of whom lack our time-acquired savvy in being engaged by someone experiencing homelessness. In short, referring a citizen who is experiencing homelessness to the services she or he needs helps the person experiencing homelessness and helps the downtown community both. And this enhancement of our program will help our city achieve both ends. In summary, our ambassadors are a welcoming sight in our downtown. They are a friendly face for downtown to all our guests and are quick to offer a helping hand to downtown visitors. Their friendly faces, their knowledge, and their engagement are net assets to all of us in downtown by making it more accessible to everyone, not just those of us who live and work in it and who know it well. Finally, and differently, I have seen our existing ambassadors, much less the extra additionally qualified ambassadors if this program is passed, engage with those of our citizens experiencing homelessness. And as a business and property owner in downtown, I see that engagement as a double win. Fellow citizens and human beings who need our help the most, receiving it when they most need it, and business and property owners who may wish that citizens experiencing homelessness were not reality, seeing progress by slowly, but certainly, one person at a time, taking the first step in saving that citizen from homelessness. I urge you to pass this expansion of the Downtown Ambassador Program to benefit our downtown and to benefit those among us who temporarily need our aid. It is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Madam Clerk.
Next up, we have Brian Postlewaite. Mr. Postlewaite, please state your name and address for the record. You will have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mayor Dyer, Commissioners. My name is Brian Postlewaite, 726 Albertson Place, Orlando, Florida, 32806. I am the Chief Operating Officer at Homeless Services Network of Central Florida. We are the lead agency for the Central Florida Commission on Homelessness. I live here in Orlando and have been serving in this role for the past 3 years, and I have over 20 years of experience in homeless services, both in Washington, D.C., as well as Vancouver, British Columbia, and now here in beautiful Orlando, which I'm very happy to make my home. I'd like to speak in support of Block by Block's work to provide extended hospitality and referral services in the downtown core. I'm excited to hear that they will be adding additional staff capacity who will be trained to effectively identify the needs of persons experiencing homelessness and to make proper, timely, and effective referrals to service providers. We've been working with Block by Block in the city of Orlando to prep them to begin to access the regional homeless information management system, which will ensure their connection with regional providers is swift and efficient. Their presence will provide immediate response capability to alleviate the Downtown Hope team from being consumed with emergency response concerns so that they can concentrate on the difficult and time-consuming work of navigating individuals to appropriate permanent housing services for our hardest to house individuals on the streets, which we need to continue to target in a intentional manner. And as COVID-19 continues to impact the numbers of persons experiencing homelessness on the city of Orlando streets, their work, I believe, only enhances our service capacity as our community responds with compassion and intentionality. I know that Mark Rendini and his team continue to engage proactively with Homeless Services Network and our CFCA, our Central Florida Commission on Homelessness partners within the community, including the Downtown Outreach team. And we will continue to proactively engage them in our targeted efforts to reduce homelessness for the city of Orlando citizens. Finally, I just want to take a personal moment to thank all of you for your commitment and dedication and intentional efforts to support unhoused and unsheltered homeless individuals in our community. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Brian. Madam Clerk?
Mayor, we have one more speaker, but I want to remind those of you joining us on the agenda review meeting today that if you would like to provide a live public comment on a consent agenda item, which are items A through K, or a community redevelopment agenda item, which are items 4-1 or 4-2. Now is the time to raise your hand to speak. Please use the raised hand feature to request to speak or dial *9 if you're on the phone. And again, that's for an item that's on the agenda, not a general appearance request at this time. Last, we have Stacy Papp. Ms. Papp, you have 5 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, thank you. This is Stacy Papp. I am the founder and owner of the Bay Hill Jewelers Group. We have our downtown location at 130 South Orange Avenue. And I would like to speak in two different areas. The first one is speaking from a retail perspective, owning a small business downtown. The Ambassador Program has been really life-changing for us. It is giving us the opportunity to hire people that may have had a perception of downtown, a nervousness to come downtown to work, to shop, to spend the day there with their families. They provide us with information. They provide us with a sense of security. They provide us, my staff, with an escort to their cars when needed, when they're working off hours, and they really want our guests to feel welcome. And we have seen that since the Ambassador Program has been implemented, and it's further reinforcing our positive perception of downtown and gaining those guests from other locations, bringing them to a family-friendly downtown area. They are also helping us to provide a gentle nudge to those that are more vulnerable in our area. But most importantly, they're spending a few moments with those people, listening and providing them with services that will give them a hand up. We prefer not to call the police when we have a slight disruption. We think that the police have many more emergencies to tend to when they're on duty. So having these ambassadors there to assist us and to, take this issue and sort of dissipate it in a pleasant way and really give somebody a helping hand, that's what our core business is all about. I would also like to speak on behalf of, I'm the founder of the Bridges of Light Foundation as well, and homelessness is very near and dear to my heart. We support foster children and children that have been in situations of homelessness, and we really want to make a difference in that. And as I'm watching through the window and I'm seeing the difference that's being made on the streets by these ambassadors, I am moved to want them to have more training and be better supported so that they can continue to handle more of this social outreach that will again help us further our mission of a thriving downtown. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to commissioner comments or questions. You're up first, Commissioner Gray.
Mayor, I have a few raised hands. We're trying to communicate to see if it's about a consent item or if it's for general appearance. So maybe if you could circle back.
Okay, we'll go through the commissioners and then come back if there's somebody who wants to speak on consent agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gray.
No issue, sir.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes, sir. Well, let me start by saying on Tuesday, June 2nd, hold on a second. These are commissioner comments, right?
No, we're on agenda review. So
I'm good to go.
Okay. Commissioner Stewart. Mr. Stewart, you're muted.
I'm okay. The only question I have is an issue raised by Becky and the others. I'm assuming that when I've looked at what I've seen, it appears that we've already addressed that issue in a way that has been satisfies MPB. Is that correct? I mean, it came through as a recommendation and an approval. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. That's all I have, Mayor.
Mr. Sheehan.
I met virtually with staff. No, I have no issues, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Hill.
I've also been briefed by staff virtually, and I have no issues, sir.
Commissioner Burns.
I've been briefed, no issues. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, did we have any additional consent agenda appearances?
Mayor, we have the Equity Council. I don't have an individual name, so if somebody from the Equity Council can state your name and address for the record, you have 5 minutes to speak on a consent agenda item.
In which,
can you hear me?
Yep. Yes,
all right. My name is LaWanda Thompson, and my address is 664 West Lyman, Winter Park, Florida 32789. And I'm speaking of a concerned citizen who shares the city resources so far as with the city of Orlando. And so my concern was I looked at the agenda and I seen that you guys had some agenda items for the street sweeper and tires that were coming out of the police budget, if I read that correctly. And I just wanted to say that the Orlando Youth in Action, we would rather those funds be reappropriated back to the community. We also wanted to ask that the Community Review Board that reviews police, that they're able to terminate and that the meeting be moved up to 6 p.m. We would also like to recommend that the whole website for the Community Review Board be changed to list their names, addresses, emails, and a way to get in contact with them, and also that their agendas and action items are listed in a way that we can see along with their photo. Lastly, just because we're talking about police funding, we also would like and demand that the City of Orlando Police Department establish a strict protocol to follow for traffic stops, including red light infractions, speeding, tail light intersections, and unsafe lane changes as follows. We also would like officers, yes, to have the right to award citations or not, but we want to make sure that the physical contact procedures are outlined. We want excessive force to stop, and simple traffic stop routine should only be the last resort that any such contact should be given to a citizen. We want citizens, yes, with outstanding warrants and suspensions to be removed from vehicles, but if they just have a minor traffic violation, we would like that to stop. Protocols and information must be published to the general public on OPD's website and government websites. We demand the abolishment of official, unofficial productivity goals and quotas leading to unwarranted arrest. Proof of the violations lead to automatic suspension and then exposure of further violation of the officer. And these things we're asking because you're giving funding to all these things. We need the police to be properly trained. If you're going to do funding for street sweepers and tires out of their budget, we need them to be properly trained. But we also need you to cut that funding. That funding should go back to the people. We have community concerns. People have been marching outside your door for about 2 weeks straight, and you're not going to act like you're going to ignore it. It's been happening. They've even come to your house. And so what I'm saying is, when are you going to pay attention to these matters? We, the Orlando Youth and Action Movement, have come and we brought you a proposal. You have yet to talk about the proposal. I don't care if we didn't follow all the proper protocols to present it, but that was a peaceful action of coming and giving you a paper and what was on our mind and seek, and not to mention any commissioner by name, but by name, I even handed our proposal to a city commissioner. So my point is, when is that going to be an action item on this agenda? When are you guys going to pay attention to us? When are you going to speak to the people outside of press conferences where no one can reach you and ways that no one can get in touch with you and cut things short? Like, we signed up for general comment, but I had to find a way to make my comment known as of right now. And what we would appreciate is that the people who share the city beautiful with you, that you are paying attention to our needs as a people, period. All these cities across the nation have been doing things to change laws and reform police. And when is the city of Orlando going to get on board with that? When are they going to make change for that? Why do we have to be the last city to do anything? Why can't we be the first? There's so many times that bullshit happens here and nothing gets done. And then other cities say, oh my God, look what happened in Orlando. Oh my God, look what happened in Florida. And then they go and they make changes to their laws, but we still sit here and we have to stew and deal with the fact that you're not doing anything at all to help the people here in Orlando. If Orlando is a city beautiful, make it beautiful by doing the right thing and making these laws to fit the people, period. The bottom line, we're not going to be the last anymore to get things done and reform here in the city of Orlando. I'm tired of coming to the protests and hearing about families who are still waiting for videotapes from the police and different things that have gone on that have hurt them. You guys need to get on the ball, or you're going to get voted out. And we are learning fast. We are learning how to recall people. We are learning how to do that. And do not think that we won't. Do not think that we won't. And do not think that people will come from other places that share in the city beautiful and make that happen as well. So what I'm saying is, it's time, and it's time to make a change. It's time to be not about words. It's time to be about action. Action, 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 action. That's all we need in this time period right now. So y'all can go on with the comfy business as usual, but we will find a way to insert. So we are trying to get to you and get known that we want change. We want change, and we want it now. And Buddy Dryer, I'm not to name you out specifically, but you've been mayor for how long? Do these people right. Do these people.
Okay, I'll respond to that or address that during
I need to respond to that also, Mayor, because the commissioner that they're speaking on is Commissioner Hill. So after you, Mayor.
Well, no, I'm going to do it during my mayor's update. Why don't you do it during your commissioner comments?
Sure.
I assume they'll stay on the line to listen, and I haven't seen any document that's been provided. I guess they're the same comments from there. Okay, any others, Madam Clerk?
No, Mayor, not for agenda review.
Okay, then the others, general appearance comes after we read ordinances. So if you'll stay in the meeting for general appearance, we will take all other comments at that time. With that, we will, without objection, adjourn the agenda review meeting. Okay, we ready to go to the regular city council meeting? 2:00. All right, let's convene the June 15th, 2002 regularly scheduled meeting of the Orlando City Council. Commissioner Gray, I believe that you are scheduled to do the invocation and lead us in the pledge.
Yes, sir. My invocation today highlights kind of two Bible scriptures and a bit of commentary. I received this from a friend recently, and I thought it was appropriate given the state of the affairs today. So please accept these comments as both a prayer and a reflection. The first scripture is Philippians 3, verse 13 and 14, and it says, "Forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus." And the second one is from Mark chapter 11, verse 25. "If you hold anything against anyone, forgive them, so that your Father in heaven may forgive your sins." And the commentary associated with this obviously is about forgetting the past and moving forward as a group. And the commentary is this: the greater the offense, the harder it is to forgive, but you must. Because whatever you refuse to forgive, you carry with you. And it will be like an albatross around your neck. In order to move forward, you have to let go and be at peace with the past. Paul could easily have allowed the memory of the Christians he put to death before meeting Christ to destroy him and rob him of his destiny, but he refused to do it. Instead, he wrote, "Dear brothers and sisters, I am still not all that I should be, but I am bringing all my energies to bear on this one thing, forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead." I hope we can all find something useful in these words. Amen. And then I'd like to do the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll and make a determination of a quorum, please?
Commissioner Gray,
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Here.
Commissioner Stewart,
Here.
Commissioner Sheehan,
Here.
Commissioner Hill,
Here.
Commissioner Burns,
Here.
Mayor Dyer.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum with all members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First order of business is agenda review and city council meeting minutes from June the 1st.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Burns. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So
Aye.
that aye was on the positive side, right? Yes. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Let's go ahead and move into the mayor's update. And commissioners, we all know that over the last few weeks, the death of George Floyd has sparked a real community movement and a lot of passion. Our community has joined together with cities across the country in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. And I want to thank all of our residents for showing the country what unity and strength looks like through the many peaceful protests that we've had in our community. And it's clear that although we have made great strides in being an inclusive community, it's not enough. Here in Orlando, we do need to agree that we need action and we need to seize this moment and work together. And already, despite what the earlier speaker said, we have begun to take action. First, we committed to reviewing and are already reviewing all of our use of force policies, training and de-escalation practices and protocols. As part of this, we answered the call and pledged commitment to the national movements supported by and started by President Obama and my brother's Keeper Alliance to address use force policies. Additionally, there's been a lot of conversation about 8 specific police policies led by Campaign Zero's 8 Can't Wait campaign. That should be enacted by all law enforcement agencies to addressing equality and transparency. And I want you to know that all 8 of those are currently addressed in the Orlando Police Department's either policies or training. And the police chief is working to update our policies to ensure that in addition to being part of the training aspect, that they are all reflected directly in our policies as well. I've asked Chief Rolone to lead a workshop at our next city council meeting on Monday, June 6th, to provide an update on our current policies and what OPD is proposing to update those and further address and emphasize de-escalation and enhanced training. There's also been a lot of discussion around funding of police departments and how communities can further invest in programs and initiatives to prevent the need for police interaction and use. So at our budget workshop scheduled for July the 20th, we'll be giving an in-depth overview of how the city budgets, what the city's proposing to budget for within the police department and through other programs. Key focus will be police funding related to de-escalation and enhanced training, and also understanding the city's commitment to providing affordable housing opportunities, access to jobs and education, and strengthening our youth programming. There's a lot of conversations happening around the issues of policing and racial inequality, both nationally but also locally. And it's important that we have open and continued community dialogue to understand what our community wants and to listen directly to our residents and make changes for them. We've had issues for everything from police reform to changing the name of Division Avenue. So as a community, it's clear that we need to further all that dialogue and together what change and what we can do to make a meaningful difference. We've started engaging some of those conversations already in just the last week. I've had the opportunity to have direct dialogue with community leaders, including members of our MLK Junior Commission, leadership from the NAACP, Central Florida Urban League, African American Council of Clergy, the National Pan-Hellenic Council, the African American Chamber of Commerce. So I believe it is important at this time that we have these conversations and participate in a meaningful process that brings real change. On another subject, Friday marked 4 years since the Pulse tragedy, but the time hasn't changed our commitment to honoring the 49 lives that were taken that night. I started the morning with Commissioner Sheehan at the Colonial Town Square Park Labyrinth, and then joined all our commissioners at Greenwood along with the chiefs to honor all of the victims, but specifically the 4 that are buried there. We weren't able to host events like we normally do, but we were able to do them virtually. I want to thank One Pulse and One Orlando Alliance for bringing these ceremonies together. And June just happens to be Pride Month. And this morning, I'm sure this is going to be in Commissioner Sheehan's remarks, but the United States Supreme Court released a very important decision for the LGBTQ plus community and really all Americans. It held that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 forbids employment discrimination against members of the LGBTQ community. And I applaud this decision. No person should have to choose between a job and being who they are. But I'm also proud that our Chapter 57 ordinances, the city has already taken steps to protect LGBT citizens from discrimination. And it's great that there'll now be federal protections. COVID is still with us. We see cases increasing across our community. That's why we're here virtually again. We need to continue to physically distance, wear a face mask, be diligent about personal hygiene. We will continue our testing centers. This week we'll be back at the Englewood Center on Wednesday. And then one item of note on the agenda that I want to mention is EDV 6 and CRA 2, as we are expanding the downtown food truck program from 2 sites to 4 additional sites to help with economic activity in our downtown. And with that, we'll move to consent agenda, which are a number of items acted upon through a single vote of council. We give each of our council members an opportunity to comment on items on the consent agenda and update you on important things from their district. We rotate the order that we do that. Today, we're beginning with Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. And as I typically say, activities in our district are on my website that are specific to District 1. But I do want to take just a second and thank all of our staff between COVID-related issues, the rallies, and just doing our normal course of business. All doing it remotely is a task. And so I just want to recognize staff, whatever their role might be. It's a different place than we've been in the last couple of months. So just want to acknowledge the hard work, and I'll yield my time to Commissioner Ortiz. Thank you.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Gray. And I echo your words in reference to our staff. Fantastic. You know, the work that they've been doing is just above and beyond, especially during this difficult times. On Tuesday, June 2nd, I had the pleasure to join in Gateway Orlando for another lunch, listen and learn. We had a productive conversation about the current state of our Summer and Quarter Market Street District and how COVID-19 is changing its business landscape. Gateway Orlando continues to make a positive impact in our community, and I'm very, very proud of that. On Thursday, June 4th, Acceleration East High School hosted their online graduation ceremony. I want to give a huge shout out to Acceleration East High School and all the hard work the seniors have put in over the last 4 years to propel themselves into the real world. Principal Doug Loftus is an integral part of this institution and leads an amazing group of faculty and staff who are dedicated to seeing our younger generation succeed. So congratulations to all of our City of Orlando seniors. On Monday, June 8th, I met with the Candlewick Neighborhood Watch Group during a Zoom conference. I want to thank Georgiana Butler and my District 2 Liaison Officer, Jose Sanchez, for continuing to spread knowledge about community safety and staying connected with our residents, even during times of uncertainty. I want to congratulate a very good friend of mine, Dr. Jeff Galtz, the Executive Dean of Public Safety at Valencia College, on his recently published book, Higher Education Leadership Strategy in the Public Affairs Triumvirate. This book provides a comprehensive approach for colleges rethinking their community policy connections. But what is most amazing about Dr. Golds, I know him since he was a police officer, became a sergeant, reached the rank of captain, became a doctor, and now he's the executive dean of the School of Public Safety. It's a great accomplishment, meant to really we should all look up to. And his books are very interesting. If you all have a chance, I really will ask you guys if you get a chance, because it has so much to do with what we do on a daily basis. His latest book, Higher Education Leadership Strategy in the Public Affairs Triumvirate. And referenced our Downtown Ambassadors Program. I really appreciate our friends speaking out about the Downtown Ambassadors Program. I truly, truly appreciate it. We just needed to tweak a couple of things in terms of reporting accomplishments and accountability measures in order to maintain the level of transparency the City of Orlando is known for. So I appreciate everybody's comments and commitment to make our city a great place to live, and I know this is going to work. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Move to Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor, and I echo the comments about our staff and the work that they have been doing. It has been yeoman's work and a very difficult challenge as we have moved forward. So thank you for that, and ask everybody to please stay safe. So special thanks to those who showed up and came to the June 2nd testing over at the Rosemont Neighborhood Center. I appreciate them showing up. We did the 166 or so, I think. Test, and we were very happy about the results that came back. We had no positives at that time. So we're going to keep on top of it, and I appreciate the work that y'all have been doing. Let me also say I was honored to stand with Commissioner Sheehan, the mayor, over at Greenwood Cemetery to acknowledge the lives of those who've lost, and lives of those who've been impacted through the mental wounds of that tragic night at the Pulse. As we said, we'll never forget, and it's and I appreciate so much Commissioner Sheehan's leadership on that. On other items, we have a thank you to our communication staff for the creation of the website dedicated to information about the policies relating to racial equality. Thank you, Mayor, for taking that leadership. I know that y'all have seen some information I've shared, asking to have Chief Rolone and our staff share information about what they're doing. Mayor, thank you for taking that lead and moving that forward. I think our community needs to hear the things that we're doing and to hear that we're working on things that we can change and make changes to it. So I appreciate that. Thank you for Family Parks and Recreation Division for their continued work on the reopening the phases of our recreational opportunities for our residents, such as the tennis center and Orlando Skate Park and some of our pools. I'm grateful to the College Park pool as opened at 50% capacity with more chances for open swim, and thank all of our staff for doing temperature checks and ramped up sanitation for these opportunities. Thank you very much. I've been glad to continue virtually engaging with different neighborhoods. Commissioner Ortiz is not the only one has been had a chance to be able to do our neighborhood watch and the work with our neighbors. And I appreciate the work that our staff has been doing. And while we are kind of getting back into the swing of things, this is has been a very effective way for us to talk to each other without having to bring them into a particular room. So I want to make sure that people are connected and they can get connected in a variety of ways. This is one of those great ways that we have taken technology to our benefit. And I also want to thank our city and our partners for providing the pre-COVID testing one more time. This has been an important asset to us. And we've got a chance really now to keep on this process. We're seeing more positives, and most of us believe that is a combination of a little bit of a little more activity in the community, as well as more tests that are out there. So we're going to kind of need to stay on top of it, and I know that our staff will accomplish that. I've got some comments on the ambassador program I'll share in a few minutes, but that's all that I have on the agenda. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sheehan.
Thank you very much, Mayor Dyer. And it was a sad demarcation of 4 years since the Pulse massacre happened. And I want to thank the commissioners that joined me, Mayor Dyer. That's always a very meaningful time for us to be together to go to the Colonial Town Labyrinth. And I got a lot of feedback from people that it was really nice to have a public place that was quiet, where they could reflect, especially in this situation with COVID-19, and they really appreciate it. So Mayor Dyer, you said at the time that this was going to be a very important public place, and it really is to our entire community. And when we were at Greenwood, I looked over at a gentleman who was cleaning one of the headstones. It was Alejandro Barrios Martinez's headstone, and I just assumed it was someone from the cemetery, and it wasn't. It was actually his father. And he didn't speak English, so someone from the cemetery actually very graciously offered to translate. And I asked him what I could do for him. And just like Commissioner Stewart just said, never forget. So thank you all for helping our entire community never forget. And there's more we need to do to stop gun violence in our communities. But thank you. And I also want to thank staff very much for helping all of us with their technologically challenged situations right now. But I think we're all doing a lot better with adjusting to all of the technology. And a lot of my neighborhoods have gone to Zoom meetings, which is great. So we can still continue being able to have the meetings, maybe not face to face, but at least be able to have the dialogue that we need to have to do our important work. And as Mayor Dyer said, today is also a very, very significant day to LGBTQ Americans. The Supreme Court affirmed the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and that's how long we've had to wait as LGBTQ citizens, since 1964, to say that we are protected. LGBTQ employees are protected from discrimination on the job. And I can remember as a young woman not being able to talk about my friends, where I was going on the weekend. You know, if you're not too bad looking 35-year-old, and people wonder why everybody else is talking about who they're dating and everything like that. It's weird when you can't talk about who you are. And there was a time when I didn't feel comfortable doing that. And there was a time when I did get demoted at my job because I participated during my vacation time at the March on Washington. So I think this is very significant to all of us. And I really think that the Supreme Court got this right. And at 6-3, it wasn't even close. So I'm very happy to see that happened today. And there's going to be a lot of celebration during Pride Month in the LGBTQ community. This is one bright spot we can really celebrate in 2020. There have been many peaceful protests over the last few weeks asking for police reform. Yeah, I will listen. I've been reading. I've been hearing people's concerns, and I think we all want to be part of the solution. I know we can do better to protect Black lives while still protecting our community. And I want to thank Commissioner Hill and Commissioner Burns, because you know what? Sometimes it's more important to listen and let other folks lead, much like you all allowed me to tell my story during Pulse and tell the story of my community and lead my community. I think it's important for people who have that perspective to be able to share with us what our best way moving forward is. So I want to thank you both for your leadership during this very difficult time. And I try to be an optimist whenever there are challenges. I mean, Lord knows I went through a very difficult time last year, but actually 4 years ago. But I think sometimes it can lead to, a better community, but to go through some growing pains and some difficulties. Another situation that's kind of sad. Commissioner Mary Johnson passed away. She was the first Hispanic city commissioner and actually went on to be a county commissioner. And Commissioner Johnson actually was a champion of women's issues at a time when no one else would champion them. She actually helped start the Victims Service Center, because at the time when women were victims of sexual violence, they were not listened to and they did not have a place to go for counseling. So I want to thank Commissioner Johnson for her very important leadership all these years in doing that. And rest in power, Mary Johnson. You did a lot for all of us, and we will never forget you. On the agenda today, the National Science Foundation Civic Innovation Grant. This is for resiliency hubs, which I'm really excited about, to provide backup power, connectivity through Wi-Fi, and resources during emergencies. So I think this is a great opportunity to partner with UCF. And also allow charging stations, things like that, Wi-Fi connection, things like that people really need during emergencies and hurricanes and things like that. So I think this is a great program, and this is the initial ask, but if we get this grant, it could be up to $1 million, and it's really going to make a difference in our community. So I want to thank Mike Hess and his team for moving this forward, because I think it's a very, very exciting opportunity to be able to help people most in need. And that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Sheehan. We'll move to Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer. Okay, as you stated, a lot has transpired in the last few weeks. Not to compound what we've already previously had been going through the last 4 months nearly related to the COVID-19 virus. Many of the disparities that COVID exposed us to when it came to actually institutional racism and health disparities. So we've been working with some of the, myself, I've been working with Commissioner Burns, also many of doctors here in Orlando regarding the health disparities and coming up with some type of health disparity and medical plan for those that are on the west side of Orlando, primarily in my district, and making that some type of a pilot. So trying to address some of those. But, as we continue the dialogue, and I would like to first, hopefully the young lady is on. I don't know if she was referring to myself or Commissioner Burns, but I know that I did meet a young lady in the heat of the protest that was coming down through District 5, which is from down City Hall to OPD. And after a few days, I did want to go out and hear the voices of the people and see what their access was, because what I did see is the protest, but I had not really heard a initiative of what is it after the protest that the people are seeking. And so I did go out, and a young lady gave me a 10-point plan, and it was, of course, addressing police brutality. I was addressing racial profiling. It was addressing militarization of police departments, and of course, defunding the police. And then it also touched some other points, public health, job training, also things that was related to some of the felons. And I like to explain for those that are at home, when you do see one of the commissioners, we are not able, because of the sunshine law, to automatically pick up the phone and call Mayor Dyer. We're not able to call for immediate emergency meeting with the mayor. We have to do a public listing, which takes about three days. And of course, Mayor Dyer stated earlier, had already put into motion, and staff usually briefs us. Just try to give you some inner workings to where you don't understand, so you understand you're not being ignored. So what I try to usually do after I speak, and it's quite of urgency, I usually try to reach out to staff and tell them what the concerns of the citizens are. And since they're senior staff, I'm certain, I hope, and through my leadership and Mayor Dyer's leadership, thinks that they start working on things, because we can't speak to one another if there's going to be a vote on it. And of course, some of the things that we're asking for are, if it's policy, most times we have to vote on. Most times, if it's resources that's not within a city department and we're trying to ask for new fund streams of revenue, we, the council, usually have to vote on that. And that doesn't just go for Mayor Dyer. That goes for any of the council members, to where we can't really meet or talk about things that possibly are going on the city council. It's illegal. I know they might do it a little bit different in Washington or at the State House, I heard, but the local municipalities, especially the city of Orlando, we have to remain under the sunshine. So that's probably why you didn't see things as working as fast, if you like, because senior staff is usually working on it. Our staff is usually working with senior staff to get some of these things done. So in the midst of all of that, Mayor Dyer did meet with, and I know myself and Commissioner Burns, we were aware that Mayor Dyer and staff was going to meet with some of the African American leadership in this area. I know Mayor Dyer and staff in my office, and I'm certain Commissioner Burns will speak to you after myself, and I don't want to overstep my boundaries and speak for him, that I can tell you my office have been working intimately with Mayor Dyer's staff and many of our department heads on how can we equally give access, jobs, and opportunities for our for those that have lagged behind in our community and in-house. There are some internal things we're trying to figure out. How can we equal the playing field with what we can do immediately? And I'm hopeful about the conversations and the dialogue. I do agree, a few Black folk don't talk for all Black folk. Not even myself, right? It has to be the community. And what I can tell you is that staff, my staff, Mayor Dyer's staff, and our department heads are working on convening those everyday citizens, also activists, even those that might not agree with some of the policies or whatever, just everyone coming to the table. Of course, with COVID, it presents a different issue. So there will be breakout groups. We're working with other social justice organizations to help facilitate it. The city, I don't think that is something, and Mayor Dyer also and his team does not think that that is a conversation that the city should lead. It's those that have been in that space of restorative justice and social equality. and police reform. That's why it was so key that the mayor announced earlier that we're working with My Brother's Keeper. And I just like to say that the city of Orlando, we have not just joined on to My Brother's Keeper. Mayor Dyer and the city of Orlando and ourselves have been leading the way throughout the country when it comes to bridging the gap with community policing and also racial disparities and implicit bias. And that has been done through a partnership with President Obama's organization, My Brother's Keeper. That has been done with REAL, which is about racial equality and social justice and also the disparities with National League of Cities. Along with myself and Chief Rallone, we have traveled together prior to him becoming the chief throughout the nation on best practices of community policing. I also have traveled throughout the nation with Brenda March and Lisa Early and many of our faith-based leaders the last 3 to 4 years. So yes, we have started to work. Can we do better? Absolutely. I think it is time that everyday citizens and especially our youth activists need to be a part of this dialogue. And what I do want to say is, I really believe that love begets love and hate begets hate. I try to lead with love, right? I've gone through many a crises, whether it came from violence, whether it came from social inequities that I wasn't afforded growing up in Paramore, whether it came from my interaction, unprovoked or provoked, with law enforcement. Of course, as I continue to say, unfortunately, because of some of the social inequities, not making an excuse that was presented to me from birth and childhood, not having all that America afforded folks and living in a very gloomful environment. I made some poor decisions. I try daily to compensate and pay it forward. But what I do know, if I would have came even here to City Hall angry and bitter about the past, but I bring it to this council and this mayor's attention constantly about still some of the social inequities, and I hope that the community can see that we are farther from where we were. In this last, I can truly say in the last 6 years, I know through Mayor Dyer's leadership, my partnership and community partners, we have, especially in District 5, have invested close to $60 million. And that has been with programming, rehabbing dilapidated park space for our children and green space, creating job training programs and opportunities, restoring that judicial system. Just on June 3rd, myself and Commissioner Burns visited Paramore Kids Zone that was activated by Mayor Dyer at that time in 2005, where juvenile delinquency and arrests and pregnancy and diseases and inadequate housing was at its all-time high. And for the last 4 years, we have gotten all of our kids that was a part of Paramore Kids Zone that graduated high school. All of them graduated. Every year we send 30 off to college or to some higher learning institution. This year, I'm glad to report we had 25 students, and among those 25 students, 13 will be attending our local institution of Valencia College, Tallahassee Community College, Edward Waters College, and FAMU. 4 will be enlisting in the military, and 4 are going to our local technical schools for certificate programs. So these are programs that I know staff and myself and Mayor Dyer's office is working on, to where we know that Paramore Kids Zone work. And so we're trying to see what kind of funding that we can put in place to model this over in the Black and brown communities of the city of Orlando, over in the Mercy Drive corridor, where, some of the same issues that was presented in Paramore at that time occurring over in the east side of Inglewood, over in District 3, trying to mimic a Inglewood kid zone. And some of these things that we know that folks in these Black and brown urban communities, maybe of lower income, are having hardships to turn those tides. When it comes to the health disparities, I think I've spoke on that. We'll be announcing soon a pilot program to address some of the underlying issues of COVID, which is hypertension, diabetes, obesity, asthma, bronchitis that is current in our Black and brown communities for adults, seniors, and our youth. So I'm just happy about that, to announce that soon. When we start talking about the community coming together on February, June 5th, we partnered with this office, partnered with Pastor Tim Johnson of Orlando Outreach, Pastor Derek McCrae from the Experience Center, and Pastor Roderick Zach, the president of the AACCC, along with Mayor Buddy Dyer and City Commissioners Robert Stewart and Bakari Burns, Orange County Sheriff Mina, Orlando Police Chief Ralone, and our Fire Chief, Chief Barksdale, for a walk of mourning and restoration. And what we wanted to do is join the protest from the faith-based community, because we know in order to truly build a safe and active and thriving community, that there's partners that we're going to need. And we do know we're going to need the faith-based community. They have been the pillar in Black communities throughout America. Matter of fact, they have been all that Black people held on to, even during those days of famine, of distress and hopelessness, was the cloth. And so we wanted to get those clergies together and also connect with the white clergy, because the Black clergy had saw that their white brothers and sisters in clergy quite had not been involved. And they came on board, and hopefully some transformational work is going to be happening there. Over 3,000 plus people came out that day and mourned, but also made confirmations and made affirmations and asked for repentance. So there's still work to be done there. Hopefully that won't be just a march, and thank God we didn't do a whole lot of singing. Because, and I don't say that in a way of being hilarious, but Black folks are saying they're tired of seeing us marching, and they're tired of seeing us singing old Negro hymns. They're ready for action and resources. And so those are some of the things that we spoke about. And I heard earlier that COVID is not dead. We have not cured COVID-19. And on that note, we realized that we were getting ready to open our centers again last Monday here in the city of Orlando. And some of the partners reached out to me. I'm so ever thankful for Orlando City Soccer and their continued support in all communities here in Central Florida, but most definitely for being a responsible stakeholder in that historic African-American community called Paramore. So they wanted to make sure that all the kids were masked up, and they made sure that they reached out to PKZ, our New Image Youth Center, and all those facilities and organizations and childcare facilities in Paramore, and make sure that youth had masks. And then they reached out to my office to make sure that I had masks for the kids in my community centers, along with a Million Mask Challenge, which has over 1,500 volunteers making masks weekly for people all over the nation. And I was thankful that they reached out to my office, and they were able to supply me with over 150 youth masks, along with 200 masks for our adults. So we were able to donate over 700 masks. Prior to during COVID, I was able to order some very special N95s, and I had staff put those on up for times such as this. once we saw that our kids was going back to our centers, and that there was a spike the last week or two in positive tests, especially in District 5, throughout District 5. I wanted to make sure that our center employees had those life-sustaining masks. So we made sure that they got their N95s, because we know the cloth masks protect someone from us, but not us from someone. And with many of our children going home to different conditions and circumstances, but coming back to our centers daily, I wanted to make sure that our staff was protected as they go back home after caring for our very vulnerable children, which we know are the carriers of asymptomatic symptoms. They can come into the center, never calculate increase in temperature, never have difficulty breathing or any of those things, but pass it on to some of the staff. So we were able to staff all of our District 5 community centers with N95 masks, as well as the cloth masks to place over them to preserve those. More dialogue and conversation around the current events related to George Floyd, but indirectly related to George Floyd, is about institutional racism and classism and the economic divide. And that was led by Mark Brewer of the Central Florida Foundation. The panelist was Mr. Glenn Genziel, CEO of Central Florida Urban League, Will Jefferson, Director of Peace and Justice Institute of Valencia, Patrice Scott, part of the Paramore. She is the director for the Paramore Asset Stabilization Fund, which has over 88 multifamily housing and single family housing in their asset fund, which is really catered to the low income families in Paramore to make sure that we can change that generational poverty and give them a sustainable income along with a quality life. So I appreciate that. Antoine Michael Simpson, professor of the University of California, and currently receiving his PhD. He was a part of the dialogue, and he is from Paramore, that now is studying over in California. And then Kyle Steele, part of Credo. And as I stated, this meeting, virtual meeting, which is many more to come, was because of systemic racism, economic disparity, and community policing. And I'll let Commissioner Burns talk about the meeting that we had with the Black Caucus. I do want to mention that it was stated about the police contracts that's on the agenda for a few $1 million that's concurrent for tires. Well, I do like to report for all those years that the police have been buying tires, that there has been a local African-American vendor that has been to partner with all those larger companies that are going to supply those tires. And they're right out of Apopka, Orlando area down on 441. And that is 3D tires. And that is 100% owned by African-American. And so those are some of the things we're looking at. Division Street, before I close, I'll close with that. But first, I do want to talk about, I do believe the best social program is a job, and the greatest equalizer is education. And those are some of the things we've been laser focused on. This council under and Mayor Dyer was able to give $200,000 last budget cycle. $100,000 was to make sure that any citizen in the city of Orlando that wanted to go and get them a 4 to 26 week certificate that will pay them up to $5 to $25. We've been working with many community educational institutions, including Valencia, including OCPS, and some private institutions that has been approved by CareerSource to give them a free tuition, also $125 a week stipend provided by the city of Orlando. So we have been diligently working during COVID to make sure that those programs still continue and that we were working out some type of virtual job fair. So through our Blueprint, City of Orlando Blueprint 2.0, and through the assistance with Career Source and Urban League, on July 7th, we are planning a job fair for adults from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then on July 8th, 2020, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., if you remember our sister police officer that was huge on bridging the divide on policing was Lieutenant Deborah Clayton. In her honor, we are continuing her youth job initiative, which is a youth crime prevention job fair. And every year we employ close to, last year was 1,000 jobs that the city gave to youth. But with COVID and many of the partners not being open, we are opening that up, trying to hire at least 100 our youth. And this is where many in our community can help out. If you can offer some internship, Career Source will pay. Their kids are now just stuck on finding somewhere to intern at. So that'd be great if some of those listening that have businesses and can make decisions to offer us some internship, we will pay it. And then there will be some new classes that is confirmed through Valencia. And they will be in class and virtual. On June 23rd, the Accelerated Skills Training Program that's in the Osceola and Paramore area. We'll be doing an outreach informational meeting to talk about the new classes that will start July 13th for clinical medical assistant. After you come out of that course, many of our students have been hired over at Advent Health and Orlando Health and are now making, after 6 weeks of course work, making up to starting out at $16 to $20 an hour. We're also doing the electronic board assembly, and that will start on June the 20th. But there is also about 50 other courses that's going to get started, or classes that's going to be started between now and January, and we'll be talking about those. For contact information, you can apply online at valenciacollege.edu/AST-application. You can apply online and find out those courses and dates at valenciacollege.edu/APPLICATION. And so with that closing, something that's been very sensitive, and that is, we've heard your voices. I've seen the thousands and thousands of emails that have came in. I am quite impressed with the campaign, with this new, the way that these millennials get their voices heard. And also want to talk about the vision. I'll take up the last 3 minutes on that. I do also believe that in this next budget cycle, that we need to find monies to increase our affordable housing stock. We do need to find more funding when it comes to job training, when it comes to education, when it comes to many of the health disparities, and many of the things that society, I think, unbiasedly and purposely have held African Americans back, right? So we know what those things are. We just need to act on them. Do I believe that everyone has biases? Yes, I do believe everyone has biases, and we all would be deceiving ourselves or telling a flat out lie if we say that we don't have biases. What I do believe, there might be we can't change grown people biases, but we can change behavior. So that's something I really want us to focus on, is changing our behaviors, not beating up people unless, racism and biases is two different things, but changing our behaviors because of some of our biases and complicit biases. So those are some things I think we need to work on when it comes to our government and ourselves, whether it's police or otherwise. I go on record to always say, that I believe, just as pro-Black as anyone else, but I also know that you got to get along with people and work with folks in order to get results. And defunding the police and stripping their budget is not the way to do that. I think I can fairly say that I heard a commission say he's unique because he's the only Black male. Well, I'm unique. I think I'm the only Black felon on this board. I'm the only one that truly have been in the backseat of a times of a backseat of a police car and have, as I stated earlier, provoked and unprovoked, have been beat up by polices. But what I do know, after I have worked with OPD and the sheriff department, of trying to bridge the gap, 99%, or I won't put a percentage on it, that's not fair. But I can say that I've worked with some amazing cops, just like I just said, Lieutenant Deborah Clayton, that laid down her life, laid down her very life. So she was more than a police officer. Our police officers are more than just police officers, somebody that put on their suit and go out to try to defend or enhance the quality of lives that we have while we're asleep or awake. There's somebody's sister. There's somebody's friend. There's somebody's mother, a brother, a father. There's somebody's husband or wives. And there's somebody that we know. I'm certain all of us do. Do we want them to be stripped of the things that might save their lives so they can go home at night to their families? Do we want to strip them from the same equalities and equities that we want to be afforded? So I believe that if we defund the police officers, we're sending them out on the front line that's well equipped. Unfortunately, we saw that through Pulse. One guy was able to kill over 49 people with one assault rifle and injure hundreds more. We've seen it over at many of our churches that have been one person with a weapon of mass destruction. So that's why, I am not in support of purchasing weapons to militarize the police, but I am in support of funding them so that they can also keep us safe, but also go home to their families. So that's what I have to say on the funding. I believe we have to find more funding for all of our social programs and many of the closing the gap of class and economics and finding more money for small businesses, for minorities and women. But I am not in support of stripping or abolishing our police department because I don't think that'll make our city any safer. And when it comes to Division Street, I think this is a great conversation to be had at a time such as this, but this is not a new conversation. This conversation has came before me over 8 months ago by some of those that are leading the charge. And as I told them then, that I did not think, nor could I support, not the community, support this because I had gone out and spoken with African-American leaders and African-American clergy about division. The first place that I moved when I came to Orlando was Division Street. And at that time, it was a community that we were proud of. There were Black businesses all up and down Division Street. There were apartments and home ownership all up and down Division Street, not just on the Church Street side, but on the east side of Division. And it butted all the way up to where the Amway Center and Huey Street is now, right? Many homes and displacement was because of I-4 that were Black-owned businesses, and also homes and apartments. And there was the Amway Center. So we know about how the dislocation of that community right there had become gentrified. And so the I don't know how the folklore started about Division Street being the separation of whites and blacks. Absolutely, it is not the division of whites and blacks. Truth be told, the division was the railroad tracks. The railroad tracks that sits right there on Garland and go all the way down was where blacks could not cross. And that is in any urban core in America. When I came from Tavares, Florida, which was ran by the Ku Klux Klan, under Sheriff Malcolm McCall, there was black, there was white. I lived there during segregation. The place where you could not cross was the railroad tracks. The same thing applied here in the Paramore area. Not when I got here, but in early segregation. So I do want us to listen to all stories versus one narrative. And then I am very sensitive about when we start, it's great to do these things for a symbolic reason, but I do not want people taking advantage of Negroes' emotions. What do I mean by that? Do not take advantage of the black and brown, the black African-American emotions by the hardships that they have seen and the way that they're feeling to push this Division Street agenda that is a false narrative. So I ask that we continue to hold meetings, council and mayor, to get the community's input before we do something that is a knee-jerk reaction during such sensitive times, because there are people in our community of the Black community that have fond memories of division. And I don't think that we should erase their history while we're trying to make other people feel good about a history that might not be so becoming, because then we'll have to change Paramore. Paramore was named after a Confederate white general. Should we change Paramore's name now? So we have to be mindful. I think what we got to do as we move forward is start talking about the real problem, and that's economics. Thank you guys for obliging me this very important time at such critical times to give my opinion to you, Mayor Dyer, and to council as we move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burns.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and fellow commissioners. On last Friday, I was traveling and could not attend the wreath laying in remembrance of the post-tragedy, but I was there in spirit, so thank you, Commissioner Sheehan, for your leadership. On Friday, June 26th, I will be hosting a food distribution in conjunction with Representative Bruce Anton at First Baptist Church, starting at 10 o'clock. This will be a first come, first served basis. Also on Saturday, June 6th, I had the pleasure of participating in a rally, march, peaceful protest following the murder of Mr. George Floyd that was organized by a youth group, Black and Unconfined. I was inspired by their engagement, their initiative, as well as their demand for change. And I thought to myself, with these future leaders in place, we as a community are in good hands. Also on Monday, June 8th, I had a chance to host a listening session to receive input and ideas on how we as a city can, one, end police brutality, but also address and combat systematic racism. So there was a lot of good dialogue, a lot of questions, a lot of good exchanges. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to share those ideas as we move forward with developing our budget. This coming Friday is June 19th, and I will be celebrating along with many across our nation Juneteenth, the oldest known celebration honoring the end of slavery in the United States. While slavery was abolished in 1863 with the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, Juneteenth commemorates the date in 1865 that slaves in Galveston, Texas were notified that they were free, almost 2 years following the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. So, Mayor, I would like to work with you and staff to begin discussions about having Juneteenth recognized as a holiday within the city of Orlando. Because as we continue to grapple as a nation with slavery, this is something that I believe we need to acknowledge as we continue to move forward. And when we talk about Juneteenth, I see Juneteenth as a revelation. It was a revelation that Black people were free from slavery. And this revelation resulted in many celebrations and post-slavery life began. And as I reflect on the recent protests and the murder of George Floyd by a police officer, I believe it was also a revelation. While much different, it was a revelation. It revealed to the world that African Americans, Black people, face threats to their civil liberties, their safety, and even their life simply because of the color of their skin. This revelation has sparked outcry and protest and a demand for substantive changes to the systems that disenfranchise, target, and negatively affects a person's way of life, simply, again, because the color of their skin. So, Mayor and fellow city commissioners, we sit here in positions with the power to implement policies that recognize, address, and combat racism and the impact that they have on the residents, our employees, as well as the many visitors to our great city. And I look forward to working with you all to ensure that what happened to Mr. Floyd never happens here in the city of Orlando, and that we're proactive in allocating resources that will allow us to care for and protect all of our community members, regardless of the color of their skin. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, my fellow commissioners, for all the work that you do. It's a pleasure to sit alongside of you as we serve the needs of our residents. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
You have a motion on the consent agenda, Commissioner?
I do. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Burns, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so the motion carries. If there's no objection, I'm going to recess the city council meeting and convene the CRA meeting. Thomas, are you there?
I am there. Can you hear me all right? All right, thank you. So thank you and good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Item number 1 on the CRA today is approving amendment to agreement with Midat Services Incorporated, doing business as block by block, of course, for ambassador services. You recall that this item was deferred from your last meeting, and we have briefed since then. But the item calls for the extension of the current program through January of 2022. The scope of services would provide for a slight increase in the number of safety ambassador hours being rendered. But more importantly, it would provide for an additional dimension that we were calling social outreach. So it'd be 2 full-time social outreach ambassadors, skilled and trained in being able to actually follow through, put the time in, and have the understanding, the knowledge, the network, and the communications to be able to follow through with homelessness and those with our homeless and those who are panhandling, and supervision for those persons. The supervisor would be a person with prerequisite prior experience in social services. So also, most importantly, we talked a lot about identifying value, if you will, how to value this program moving forward. So in an email that I sent to you all on Friday, the 12th, as I stated in that email, in addition to the data that's currently being captured by the SMART system that is proprietary to Block by Block, which over the last 6 months, and I shared this in a graphic with you, shows more than 8,500 health and wellness checks, more than 3,000 business contacts, hundreds of safety escorts. And it shows, of course, what the point in time counts are that they do twice daily in morning and evening for both observing panhandling and as well as homelessness being observed. More importantly, it also reports over the last 6 months that some 334 incident reports have resulted from that, with 124 of those incident reports resulting in emergency services being called, either medical services through OFD or law enforcement through OPD. But again, in addition to that, as we talked about the new social outreach component, we were able, with the assistance of several professionals within that industry, led by our very own Lisa Porcelli, to come up with what we call some social outcomes, which will be measurables that would be conveyed to staff on a quarterly basis from block by block, along with the prior mentioned statistics, and would be conveyed from staff to the CRA or to City Council on a quarterly basis. These include, but are not limited to, clients tracking the number of clients that are referred for medical or dental services, the number of clients referred to emergency services or emergency shelter, I should say. Those being referred for various supportive services like identifications or SSI or VA or Medicaid. And of course, it would track the number of clients that were actually placed into shelter or housing as a result of this work, as well as tracking the number of homeless who have been diverted from the streets of downtown Orlando. And so in summary, quarterly reports coming to staff being conveyed to you with measurable outcomes, so that you're, of course, in the future able to make a better informed decision as to the viability or the value, if you will, of an ambassador program, and whether or not we should continue with that at the end of this contract. I'd point out that the advisory board does recommend approval. And Mayor, I know there's some comments, but I'll just, if you don't mind, I'll read the motion, and I guess if there's a second, then that will be that's the appropriate time for those comments, I assume. So staff is requesting the CRA to approve the Amendment 1 to agreement with Mighty Services Incorporated, doing businesses block by block, subject to review and approval by the City Attorney's Office, and authorize the City's Chief Procurement Officer to enter into and execute such amendment.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Stewart. Is there discussion?
Commissioner, Mayor Dyer.
Commissioner Gray.
Oh, I just briefly wanted to say thanks to Thomas and Lisa and their team for kind of listening and being willing to put some measurables in this proposal. I mean, we're spending $1 million of taxpayer money. No doubt the front end of the contacts are good. It seemed important to me to make sure that we know how effective we are. And if we're very effective, we should put more money in it. And if we're not, we should pivot and find another way to help folks. But thanks to Thomas and Lisa for listening and throwing in some measurables. So I'll yield to Commissioner Stewart.
Commissioner Stewart.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commission. Thomas, I think we've found out that there's a lot of good stuff happening, and we need to get that feedback back to us a little more often to see this. I think all of us agree that what we're doing is doing some good stuff. I think the measurables are important to us. I think especially during the time in the last 3 months where we're going through the COVID, what is the highest priority, what we need, and then how do we place our people in the best spot to be more effective. And while I want to hear the comments from the downtown, I think they're important. Having measurables also is a good balance to making sure that we're doing the right stuff. And I think what you have heard from me, I think, and from the council is please tell us more and keep us abreast, not every time a contract comes up, but keep us abreast about how we're doing so that we can help you and help our downtown corridor. So thank you very much for the information you've given me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I think the two-week delay was appropriate in terms of getting a better work product. So I appreciate everybody's input.
Yes, Mayor Dyer.
Commissioner Burns.
Yes, and thank you, Thomas, for bringing back the information. And following our meeting, our last council meeting, I was able to speak with my team and with my other hat at the health center. We have the downtown outreach, the Hope team that wear the red shirts downtown. And I asked them what has been their experience, and they wholeheartedly thought that the the ambassadors were doing a great job, a great addition, very complimentary of the work that they do, because we only have 2 sometimes 3 individuals down there with the red shirts. So having that additional personnel down there to assist our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness, make the appropriate referrals for care that they will need, I think is important. So I support it. Thank you, Thomas, again, for coming back with the information. And I just glad that we're at a point that we will be moving forward with extending the contract, but more importantly, the extension of the services that will be provided under this contract.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. Look at my message. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for the feedback, and thank you for taking the time to meeting with us. I also want to thank all those friends of ours from the downtown community that came out to speak on behalf of this particular program. That speaks volumes about what's going on downtown, and we'd really appreciate that. That's something that helps us too. At the end of the day, as we said before, it's about transparency, to keep up with the transparency we've been showing all this year. So thank you so very much, and thank you to the staff.
Mayor,
Commissioner Hill.
I just want to thank my 2 good Republican friends on the end of the dais for seeing it my way. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Thank you guys for your leadership. And you're absolutely right. It is about data. And not just, this is going to be so helpful for us to even much go to legislation, whether it's with the HEROES Acts monies or some other funding that we might can get for programs after we get the data over in Tallahassee. So thank you all for always being conservative, but also making me see that, you know, I'm big on social programs, but that piece there and that case management and expanding is great. But the measurables was something that was lacking. So thank Tony and Commissioner Gray, and you also, Commissioner Stewart, for bringing that to our attention. And as the mayor said, I think delaying it 2 weeks, we got a better outcome than our first vote.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mayor.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Just housekeeping. We actually have a pending motion from the last meeting. Commissioner Hill motioned and Commissioner Burns seconded, and then Commissioner Hill made a motion and Commissioner Stewart seconded to defer it to this meeting. So we don't need another motion for today. We have the pending motion from the last meeting. So we just needed to
let it be reflected in that fashion.
Okay.
Further discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Commissioner Stewart, did you have another? Okay. Thomas?
Just voting.
Okay. Food trucks.
Okay, so before I go into number 2, I would like to thank the commission for the thoughtful manner in which you've addressed this. Sometimes we don't only as staff get to educate you. You actually educate and direct us, and we learn a lot from you. We learn from you in this piece. We hear you clearly. You'll be getting quarterly reports. It helps us all. So I think the whole thing is better and improved based on the guidance and direction that you all have given us. So thank you so much for that. Item number 2, Mayor and Commissioners, is approving funding related to the downtown food truck locations of the mobile food vending program. As the Mayor talked about earlier, this is a companion to item C6 on the consent agenda that you just passed. And so staff is requesting the CRA to approve the expenditure and payment of up to $17,870 toward cost of metered parking for the operation of food trucks, as well as some related signage and other incidental program implementation expenditures.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Discussion.
I have discussion, Mayor, and I apologize that it just came across my mind, and I don't know how to go about it. In all fairness, Thomas did give me a briefing, and I did tell him all was well. But just through the conversation from the public appearance and all this, I know we already had 2 to 3 spaces. Now we're adding a 4th. And when we start talking about equity, and I think it's first come, first serve, as long as you have your food licensures and your health department are licensed and those things, and insurance, it's first come, first serve. Is there opportunity, Mayor, while we're talking about inclusivity, that one or two of those spaces can be set aside for African American food truck? Is that legal? Or just some thoughts? Because I know I've never seen them regular downtown, and by the time they get there, I've gotten, because I put the word out last when we did the pilot piece, and those two spaces over near the Historian Center, Central Florida Regional History Center, was always occupied, and by the time they get all the way from the west side and try to get stocked up, they were, they wasn't able to secure one of those spaces. So I don't know.
In the interim, I'll look and see whether it would have to be not just African American, but it maybe
minority.
It's a minority owned.
Okay, that'd be great. That'd be fair.
Okay, I'll take a look. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
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 And so the motion passes. Further business, Thomas?
Well, Mayor, I just read someone, and I know this isn't something that we could require, but I just saw a question come up, which is really somewhat while we're doing the minority piece, but also someone asked, would there be any trucks that have EBT or SNAP, right, for coal items? That is something to think about, because many of our residents that's wandering downtown or whatever do have a SNAP or EBT cards, and maybe that will be an opportunity for equal access. I was just something I read, something to think about when we ask our vendors that's going to be down there, that they're just not trucks that accept cash only or debit cards.
Yeah. Thomas, will you just remind me, or will you take an initiative to check with legal on both of those?
Sure, so we'll check on both. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Sorry for that.
Further business to come before the CRA?
There's none there.
Then we will stand adjourned as to the CRA and reconvene the city council meeting. Madam Clerk, if we could move to hearings, ordinances on second reading, number 1.
Ordinance 2020-29. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Article 32, Orlando City Code to clarify the procedures for City Council's consideration of a recommended order from a hearing officer in a quasi-judicial hearing, providing legislative findings on severability, codification, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on this matter?
I do not have any speaker forms, Mayor, but I have one hand raised. I need to confirm if it's for this item.
Okay. In the meantime, is there discussion among commissioners? Madam Clerk?
The speaker is Lawana Gelzer.
Okay.
Ms. Gelzer, you have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Lawana Gelzer, 7674 St. Stephen's Court. I'm speaking on this item because I spoke on it at the first reading, and I'm speaking on it because I'm very concerned about the people right and the policies for us to question your vote and your ability to understand what the needs of the community is. I've watched the process go from having to pay $250 to now $500. I've also watched the policy change from 30 days, 45 days to respond, now 25 days. I've watched you even allocate 458 mitigated credits to fight us, the citizens, when we had an issue that was dealing with the wetlands in over on John Young. So I've watched. When you talk about equity, when you talk about a whole lot of things, I'm watching you saying lip service, but the policies of what you're doing is stripping the rights of the citizens away. I've watched you spend $2 million for free parking downtown out of the CRA budget where you shifted some dollars. Last on July June 1st, I watched you go back and forth to spend $1,225,000 for 1/10 of an acre at Lake Eola that does not have access. I watched you spend $6 million for Constitutional Park on Summerlin. I have watched things being done under the COVID-19 pandemic that when we talk about equity, when we talk about the citizens, when we talk about a whole lot of things, I go back and I reiterate lip service. Because why do you need to do this now? Why are you doing this? I mean, I watched you change it in late December, the last meeting. You have stripped the rights of the citizens to question you. But yet you say you're making the best decisions and you understand. No, the citizens are saying on June 6th, when they came down, it wasn't just for police brutality, because no matter what anybody says, I've been stating this fact for the last 6 years. When you change the policy, use of force, you're still number one in the country. No one wants to talk to people who knows the facts. We want to lip service this matter. And when 10,000 people are showing up and now more people are questioning not just police brutality, but systemic racism, this policy and the changes is an indication of what we're questioning. Why you got to do it now? And why is it always something when people reach out and see that this is going to affect their community and they raise the $250, now $500. When they get the attorneys, be pro bono or they have to pay, we have to fight our own government with our tax dollars when we believe that we know what's best for our community. I think you got it backwards. This is not a dictatorship. Maybe you guys think 45 might be right, but he's wrong. It's a democracy, and you work for us. It's called public servant. And the community is saying we've had enough of these policies. It's the policies that we've constantly questioned on what you're doing. So I sit here and watch you spend money, $1 million for a program downtown. You talk about Division Street. Nobody want the street changed. I know the history. It was done back in the early 1900s. We understand what it is, but we're talking about economic divide. That's what it is. And what we're saying is every time I look, I see you taking away the power of the community to speak up against what you're doing to them. And then you have a lip service and you invite who you want at the table. But as you can see, the table is 10,000 and getting stronger, and we're communicating among ourselves. So you can continue with the lip service. You can pick and choose who you want at your table. But like I said on June 6th, our table, everybody is welcome to, and more people are watching what you're doing in this particular community, in this particular city, and they're saying we've had enough of your bad policies, and we are tired of living through these bad policies. So I end by saying this, Mayor Dyer, lip service is great, but it's wrong. And the citizens are saying this, but LaWanna said, why you continue to strip the policies and our ability to question you on things by changing the process. Have a wonderful day.
Madam Clerk, do we have any other requests for comment?
No, Mayor, no more.
Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2020-32, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to change the future land use map designation for approximately 0.35 acres of land generally located north of West Muriel Street, west of South Orange Avenue, and south of West Harding Street from residential medium intensity to mixed-use corridor medium intensity on the city's official future land use maps, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Madam Clerk, any requests to comment?
No request, Mayor.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 3, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2020-33, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the Starwood Plan Development Zoning District, providing for amendment of special land development regulations, providing that prior ordinance is still in effect, providing for permit disclaimer, corrections, governor's errors, severability, and an effective date.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Hill. Anyone that requests to speak, Madam Clerk?
No speakers, Mayor.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, ordinances first read, Madam Clerk, number 1.
Ordinance 2020-28, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located north of Silver Star Road, west of John Young Parkway, and east of Clemson Road, and addressed as 2727 Silver Star Road, and comprised of 0.485 acres of land, more or less, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to designate the property as industrial on the city's official future land use maps, designating the property as industrial commercial with the Wekiva Overlay District on the city's official zoning maps, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction, scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Any speakers, Madam Clerk?
Mayor, I don't have any speaker forms that were submitted, but I have a raised hand from Lawana Gelzer. Ms.
Okay.
Gelzer, you have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
I just want to go on record and say these are valuable wetlands, despite what everybody might say. Changing the future use plan to make it industrial, allow you to continue to remove more trees. We're up to 5,000 trees that we know of. Endangered species have been removed from their habitat. People that currently lives in the Orange County, but right across Princeton, John Young, have been told to now get flood insurance. The air quality was in the 76%, which was great air quality compared to the poor air quality that we currently have in Paramore, which is 90%, meaning we're in the worst air quality in the country. I just see that the changing of these things to allow you to continue to do what we consider corporate welfare, and you talk about equity, but this is not equity. This is making sure those who on your campaigns or the corporate welfare has an easy playing field. First, you attack that I spoke about the quasi hearing process. Now you're just changing the use of the future land use, so you continue to do what you're doing. I say this by saying this. I just want to be on record, but your record is poor when it comes to what's best for people in the community, especially those urban communities. And the urban communities is stating that this is unreal. And all over the country, government is doing this, and you wonder why people are rising up and saying we've had enough of these bad policies. So the photo ops taking a knee, the photo ops having these virtual town hall meetings, the photo ops, we're sick and tired of it. It's not working. It's not working, and it's not working because we see the policies and we feel the effect of what you're doing. And what you're doing is destroying urban communities that are predominantly African-American communities, and we have to brunt the effects of what you're doing. See, it might be okay over on the east side of John Young in College Park, but you won't see the effects and what it does on the west side of John Young when you start to do all of this stuff. Who knew that these people in Orange County that don't live in the city of Orlando have to buy new flood insurance because they're still in unincorporated Orange County? The list goes on and on. You had people who are experts in this, but it's still, you continue to move forward to do what you need to do, destroying the inner city, the urban communities that are most likely occupied by African Americans, but it shouldn't matter. But I look at the history, and we're talking about the history of our government. And pretty much, unless the federal government interacted, we would probably still be on plantations. We barely got our rights to vote. So we clearly can see the process continues. So I say by ending by saying, Mayor Dollar, the policies that this administration under your supposedly leadership is being questioned, not by LaWanna Gelzer, but by a whole lot of other people. And the people are saying, can you do us better? Can you stop giving us rhetoric and do the right thing for all the citizens and not a select few? But if we have to look at the history says you will continue with your bad behaviors regardless of the effects that it has on the community, especially the African American community, because like you said to one that you didn't even know, Dr. Jones, that this is what we always do, because it doesn't have to affect our other communities that are higher income, not income challenged. But you were elected to represent all, whether we voted for you or not. You decided to be a public servant. So serve all the people equally. Serve all the people equally and not a select few. But when we look at your record, your voting record, we see that you don't do that. You serve your people the way you want to, and we have to butt the grunt. And the grunt is poor air quality, property values decreasing, and a whole lot of other things. So the lip service is great, but the lip service is caught up with you. Policies need to change. The behavior of the city council when it comes to the citizens that are the voiceless, you need to change your behavior. Have a wonderful day, and thank you.
Madam Clerk, any other speakers?
No more speakers, Mayor.
Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? So the motion carries. And number 2, Madam Clerk. You're muted, Madam Clerk.
Sorry. Got it. Ordinance 2020-36, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending and restating the land development regulations of the South Orange Medical Complex plan development for certain land generally located west of South Orange Avenue, south of West Harding Street, north of West Muriel Street, and comprised of 1.20 acres of land, providing for amendment of the city's official zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of Scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Do we have any speakers, Madam Clerk?
I do not have any speaker cards, and no speakers, Mayor.
Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? And so the motion carries. All right, that concludes the agenda business of the Orlando City Council. Communications, would you let me know when we can move forward with general appearances?